Hello and welcome to the Hibs Observer Monday evening debrief with myself, Liam Bryce, joined by Craig Nisbet, the man behind 91-25 analysis, to look back over Saturday's 3-1 win for Hibs at McDiarmid Park over St Johnstone. Goals from Emiliano Marcondes, Paul Hanlon and Dylan Vente. Securing what is probably as comfortable an away victory as Hibs have had this season. 3 points on the board pretty much eradicates that, which is already a sort of small fear of being dragged into the dreaded playoff fight. And at least 4 games for the rest of the season for Hibs to try and build on something. Craig, first of all, thanks for joining us. As always, how are we? How are we this evening?
I'm good, and I've finally get to come on and talk about a win, so that's a bit of a relief for me, to be fair.
I did promise you this. For
did.
the record, I promised him it multiple times. So as soon as the final whistle went on Saturday, it was in my mind that we would need to get this arranged. Just as you say, to give you the chance to talk about a victory for a change, because you were. It was defeat after defeat for those few weeks. We'll get into the game in a second. First of all, I just need to run through our sponsors' message. We are sponsored by Weissman, a global leader in the boiler industry, well known for their top-notch German engineering, and they've teamed up with Scotland's award-winning installation team, MPH Boilers, making this a perfect match right here in Scotland. Weissman's boilers are engineered to deliver not just warmth, but unparalleled efficiency and reliability. Cutting-edge technology, it's designed to save you on your energy bills and reduce emissions as well. With MPH Boilers, you know you're getting service from the best in the business too. As part of this partnership, when you choose a Weissman boiler installed by MPH Boilers, you'll also get a free internet controller so you can manage your heating anytime, anywhere. And you'll also get the first year's service free. It's about giving you peace of mind and just making sure that you're looked after. So if your boiler's showing its age or you're considering an upgrade, this is your chance to get world-class engineering with local expert service. Weissman and MPH Boilers, it's a match made in Scotland. So make sure you check them out and take the first step towards a warmer, more efficient home. So on that note, I think I would describe Hibs as being pretty efficient for a change in front of goal on Saturday. And that might jar a wee bit in the sense that, you know, that there could have been plenty more. But to put away a number of chances rather than, let it drag on, we only have 1 goal advantage, and then to then fall into the trap, that kind of inevitable trap that they had been, certainly over the course of this season. It was probably a nice welcome change for the travelling support on Saturday, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. I think when the way the game panned out, we certainly were in control of it quite a lot. But that's been quite a feature of this season. There was differences in the performance, but the blueprint was kind of still there from games that we've had before, where you're just egging the team on just to put the ball in the back of the net, and goals change games and going ahead. But we were more clinical. I think we got the goals at good times, getting one just before half time, and then kind of weathering St Johnstone Storm a wee bit into the second half, being quite solid. Again, credit to Montgomery. He makes a couple of changes, then they combine for the third goal. So, it was kind of like a wee bit of a feeling that things were kind of falling into place. Maybe a wee bit bittersweet in a way that this performance had only come a few games earlier. It would have been a bit different, but no, it was certainly things moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really ignore some of the sentiment that I've seen that there were I'd find there can have maybe a fair few people who were a wee bit annoyed that Hibs have come up with this performance after essentially the pressure is off. But I think the kind of manager and the players who have spoke in the aftermath of the top 6 disappointment there has been, and I can't help but agree with it. They've kind of apologised for it, but they are saying that all we can do now is move forward. So if you're taking it as the start of something new, which if you're trying to be positive about things, then you kind of have to. It was a kind of maybe a good first step to finishing the season on a more positive note. Certainly seemed like a tricky fixture considering St Johnstone have beat Hibs in the last 2 games, especially the way the game panned out at McDiarmid Park away back in December. I think it was totally different. I'm not sure Hibs even had a shot on target that day. to obviously the difference they kind of peppered the St Johnstone goal. If it wasn't for Dimitar Mitov, then it would have certainly have been more. So you touched on there that there was maybe the same blueprint, but with some differences. So what were the differences did you see?
I'm going to laugh because I'm going to start off by talking about Lafondra starting again, but which I seem to say all the time when I'm on. But genuinely, I do think, having him, again, just having that vocal point up front, I think does make a difference. And I've rewatched the game, and a lot of his work does go unnoticed. But he's there, he's getting his body in the way, he's taking hits. And we're picking up the second ball from him and then continuing our attack. So I do think that was an important change. Also, then it lets Mizian go out to the left, and I think he gave St Johnstone a torrid time. Really, he did everything but score really, and I thought he was fantastic. He just glided around the pitch. So yeah, I think like. Probably the biggest thing, when they were playing out from the back, and obviously it's a thing that Montgomery's really brought in and something that we're really focused on doing. And the last few times we played St Johnstone, they've kind of they've let the centre halves get on the ball. They've basically went man for man everywhere else, and I think essentially they've just bullied us. They've just bullied us off the ball, and then tried to play it into Sidibe or Clark or Keumpe, whoever they've got up front, and just releasing them in behind and kind of catching us on the counter. That was like what happened at Easter Road. And it was interesting because quite a few of the ways we were playing out from the back, actually, like after Emiliano's goal, they had a moment where Marshall fires it into him. He tries a little flick round the corner. It gets pinched by Phillips. I think they break. Sidibe goes in 1-on-1, and it's not a great finish. It's a decent save from Marshall. But then a few plays later, Marshall, the ball goes into Emiliano. This time the flick does pay off. It goes into Boyle. And I don't know if you remember, Boyle comes inside. He gets clattered, but the ball breaks. And actually, if the referee didn't blow the whistle, it goes into Lafondra, comes back. And if we hit a switch, we're 2v1 with Obita and Mizian on that side. So I thought it was interesting. There was loads of moments in the game where it was almost like you could see the players knowing what they had to do. The execution just wasn't coming off at times, but then a few plays later it was, which I think shows a lot of sign of progress, and certainly I think shows that the players are probably trusting the process. But you're right, when the pressure's off to a certain extent, there's a change there, but they are under a lot of pressure as well to perform during these games. Yeah. There's big expectations now, so maybe if they can each other out. But I thought that was a really interesting aspect of the game, just watching it back and seeing the way we managed to actually this time I felt like the home game against St Johnstone, the ball moved sort of side to side and there was nothing really going between the lines, whereas I felt this game we really opened them up. We got in behind them, we got in between them, and obviously that resulted in us getting the win.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of perfect summary of it, to be honest. As you say, I think you do make a good point that these are still players who are under pressure to produce performances, because some of them are potentially playing for their futures at this point. So it's and we'll come on to Paul Hanlon later on, but it kind of chimes with something that he said in his post-match interview. He says at this club you're always being judged. So when the pressure is in terms of what was the worst case scenario and the bottom six, that somehow you get dragged into the playoffs, that's kind of gone now. But the kind of that pressure, that expectation to produce performances certainly doesn't really go away. So I think you make a cracking point with that as well. If we can just talk through the goals, I mean, I don't think we can. It's nearly 10 minutes into this video and we've not mentioned that free kick yet, so I think that we better get to that. It was one of those. That's kind of worth the price of admission alone to see moments like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in the build-up to Boyle does really well. He cuts inside, kind of just lets kind of slows down, lets Phillips kind of bring him down. And actually, as Emiliano's lining it up, we were sort of probably all watched the YouTube clips of him and, talking about this free kick specialist, and we've not really seen it. And it was interesting because as he lined it up, he calls Lafondra over, I think, to kind of try and block Mitov's view off like where he's going to strike the ball. And I think to beat the goalkeeper at the side the goalkeeper's closest to, you have to hit that with so much power, so much speed, so much accuracy. Like it just gets better with every watch. And Mitov, yeah, he sort of, you can see just as Emiliano's just about to strike it, he just moves, he like transfers his weight just that one moment, and then obviously as the ball's traveling, you can see him rushing back across the goal. But just unbelievable finish. And obviously something that we've been so desperate to see come from him. The rest of his game was a bit up and down after that, in terms of I thought how he played. But yeah, I mean, you just can't argue with that quality.
Yeah, I think even if Mitov, even if he doesn't take that step, you could still make a case for he's still not getting anywhere near that. And he did come in with that, kind of well-earned reputation. Really, it wasn't just this guy claims that he can hit a free kick. He has kind of been known for it across his career, but it's probably, I mean, he's had a couple, but not really too many opportunities that I can really remember to have a go from that range. And again, I'm sort of just repeating what you said there, but I was going to bring it up anyways. It was weird because I don't think he had a brilliant game. That aside, I think like you could see, especially in the first half, that every time he got the ball, Phillips was on top of him. Like he was all over him like a rash. And Phillips is he's a bit as aggressive and kind of, you're kind of hard into the tackle as you're going to get in the league. He's a good player, Phillips. He's got a lot of qualities, and he did make it tough for Emiliano. But as you said, it's moments of quality like that. If indeed he moves on, he doesn't come back for next season. It's the wee moments like that I think you'll remember from it's obviously a really talented player. And after that, I mean, there was a few chances for him. There was also the kind of break with Martin Boyle. He gets through and he tries to. I mean, it looked like he maybe tried to dink the keeper. Am I being maybe a bit too generous towards him to say that? I'm not sure that he did. That he maybe just didn't get a great contact on it. Or do you think he was trying to dink the keeper there?
Yeah, going back to my one man Adam Lafondra fan party here. Like at the end, the edge of the box, Lafondra's back, and he just kind of gets his body in the way. I don't know if it's maybe Constantine or not, the centre half, and then he basically just like screens him and falls over and stops him getting back. And then obviously, as you see Boyle go, great run, Mizian with a great, like, well-timed run just to pull the other centre-half away. And as he goes in, I don't know, it's sort of like he's trying outside of the right foot, maybe to try and almost like stab it into the ground and just get that little lift past Mitov, but obviously he just doesn't catch it right. And obviously it's just that it ends up being a really comfortable save. But I think, like you said, just to me prior to us coming on air, that I think that was a good example, and partly through, I did think St Johnstone were very, very poor, and you could tell by the crowd and the animosity around the place. But that was that was a really good example of like what Hibs could do on the counter attack, what we could look like on the break, and the danger that we possess in that. And I think that's probably been one of the first times we've really seen it in that way. Still didn't really capitalise on those types of chances, but I think if we can get those types of players, those types of like player profiles coming in with like speed and agility and things in behind, then we'll do teams a lot of damage.
Yeah, you touched on the kind of crowd at McDiarmid Park there. There's it's like an indoor press box at McDiarmid, but I'm telling you, it did not deter the intensity of the boos from McDiarmid Park. I think there's a lot of good booing grounds in the Scottish Premiership, but I think McDiarmid Park is a bit of a dark horse in that sense. It is right up there in what's a kind of strong field. And there was yet more when Paul Hanlon came up with the second goal. Obviously, he came on for Will Fish. Not been any update as to his fitness yet, but I'm sure we'll get that at some point later in the week. I mean, the game sort of, when I was kind of maybe going to go on earlier on, when there were a couple of chances after going 1-0 up, and I think just, out of a habit almost, you start to think, right, is this going to just follow the same pattern? Plenty of chances to put this away, or St Johnstone going to get a goal, set piece, breakaway. So then it was probably a nice surprise for everybody involved, the manager, players, fans, that Hibs went on to press home that advantage. And I mean, it's the second goal is just, I think it's just sheer persistence on Hanlon's part, isn't it? Just kind of desire to get to the ball first.
Yeah, I mean, and from a Hibs throw-in, which is like quite a rare thing to see a throw-in, because we've launched the ball in the box a lot this season, and not to much avail. But yeah, I think like when you watch the goal again, I think Hanlon's actually really there to flick it on. All the players are kind of behind him, kind of getting set. He makes his run to the front, and I think he misses it. I think both players miss it. It takes a deflection. He goes to strike it with his left foot. It's blocked, and then he just sort of kind of bundles his way through. And then actually it's a really composed finish, and a really good finish actually, because we know Mitov already made a number of good. Obviously, it's probably his best save came off Mizian just not long after we had went 1-0 up. But it was obviously it's close range, but it's very easy to probably swipe at that one. But on his weak side, a great finish. And I know 2-0 Hibs hasn't been a comfortable scoreline this season, but you kind of felt like with the animosity around the stadium going 2-0 up, that was kind of the game secure. I mean, you would whisper it, but the game was kind of secured at that point.
Yeah, I certainly been there. It felt like a more secure 2-0 than I've seen at various points this season. For example, and the one that springs to mind is maybe obviously Ross County at home. There was definitely another one that escapes me at the moment, Kilmarnock away. So it felt a bit more secure than that, and I think you have to credit Hibs for that. It was a more controlled performance when in that sort of specific sort of game state, and St Johnstone were really poor, I thought, and that probably just makes it all the more frustrating, that result at Easter Road a few weeks ago, just because they really showed very little, and that was obviously top six. The final nail in the coffin was a Motherwell game, but there was a significant chunk of damage was done when St Johnstone came to Easter Road and won. So I suppose it's perhaps a bit frustrating in that sense. But again, I'm going to try and keep it as positive as possible. So I'll move on to the second half. Again, Hibs, kind of felt that some really good bits of play in that second half. Mizian, Emiliano, Lafondra. So I think even before the third goal came, it felt like that kind of killer third was coming for a while, I felt.
Yeah. There's a couple of there's chances around like 54th, 56th, 61, 64 minutes, and all of them are actually really nice little bits of play from us. And it's like in my notes there, it's just like it's the final cutback. It's just either cut out, it's just not gone to a Hibs player. The biggest chance, I suppose, I did say Mizian's chance after we scored was probably his biggest one, but obviously he has the chance when it's cleared off the line, when the ball's cut back and he goes from there. So at that point you can feel like we're turning the screw and things are going. But even watching it, and it's easy in hindsight now watching it back and going, oh well, we were comfortable. There was a wee bit of, when Sidibe went off, I was a wee bit more relaxed as well. But there was just that little bit Dre Wright coming on, people like who you just think could come back and haunt you. And it was quite not an open game, but when St Johnstone went forward, like I still felt that they could threaten us. I don't think they were toothless in any way. But obviously then, he makes a couple of changes, and I'm sure that's like every manager's dream, and he must have been delighted that Campbell and Vente combined for that goal.
Yeah, and it was good to see that, I suppose, because I think that is kind of one of the areas that Montgomery's come in for a bit of criticism around, isn't it? It's like the in-game management, subs not working out. I certainly feel it sometimes maybe in his earlier games, I thought it was kind of, a lot of it was perhaps a bit more excusable in that. I think the Ross County game at home, I certainly remember he was kind of throwing guys on. I think Alan Del Ferrier came on, he hadn't kicked a ball, and he was maybe still scoping guys out at this point and trying to see what folk were all about. But I think certainly as the season's gone on, he's got in-game management has come under a bit of scrutiny. So as you say, it was nice to see subs really like a positive contribution, and it was good to see Dylan Vente get on the score sheet again. I suppose it's been a bit difficult for him start all season. We've kind of spoke at length before about how he played sort of out of position. He was in and out of the team, I think, around about January, and then he got that injury. So I wrote in a piece that we did last week that if he's going to have a chance of being the sort of main man as a central striker moving forward, then now is probably these last 4 games now, but 5 including the weekend, is to maybe try and get him into the team as much as possible and see if he can put a run together, because I I do feel that his game's not perfect by any means, obviously, but I do get a sense that see when he does get the chances, I don't feel like he misses that often.
No, and just to touch on your point on the subs, I think I'm obviously, we're big fans of Paul Hanlon, and we'll talk about him just at the end. But even, he had the choice, probably Triantis coming on there, or Hanlon. And, in the past, he's put Triantis on. And maybe another criticism of his in-game management has been getting some experience on when we're 2-1 up, or, when we're starting to feel a bit under pressure, and he's not done it. Or, like you said earlier, he's, throwing loads of players on to get people on the pitch. And so he's kind of went between two different styles, but I think that was I think Saturday was his most controlled. And yeah, it made sense to take Lafondra off and put Vente on. And yeah, Emiliano, great free kick, but didn't have, was starting to die off a bit, and you could see chasing back and dealing with St Johnstone going behind. He's a willing runner, but he was tired. You could see he was tired. And so I think he deserves full credit for the subs. And yeah, the finish, obviously it's not a great free kick from Rocky up, and a poor header away from St Johnstone, and obviously Campbell. It's just, it's a ridiculously well balanced header to play him in behind. And Vente does, he lets it go over his head, and he actually I think he just takes one touch with his knee just to get into his path. And then, listen, we know Mitov is a shot stopper. He's fantastic. So, and it's just for a guy that's struggled for fitness and form, it looks like a finisher that's hit 25 goals a season. He just looks so confident in the way he put it away. And I think it was really good for him and really good for us, and hopefully maybe kickstart something for him during these next couple of games.
Yeah, it would certainly be good to see him get a bit more time on the pitch and see if we can just kind of add to that tally, and maybe just get a bit of consistency in terms of, kind of a bit of consistency and rhythm into his game going into the summer. Obviously that would potentially come at the expense of Lafondra, so that might not go down too well with yourself, but at the same time it'd be good to see him get a run. So we keep promising to talk about Paul Hanlon here, so we better get on and actually do it. Came on, scored, and it is sort of looking potentially, now that he's coming towards the end of his Hibs career, obviously out of contract in the summer. He came out and spoke after the game on Saturday, and I'll just, for anybody that's not seen it, you can read the full interview on our website, but this is kind of the important bit in terms of his contract. He's just, he was asked if he had any more chats about what's going to happen at the end of the season. And he said that there's been a few chats, but it's one of them that will probably be announced in a few weeks, with the weeks running out now. So probably an announcement will be made in the next few weeks. So not given really anything away there other than a sort of vague timeline. So I suppose that's open to interpretation as to whether he's potentially going to stay on for another year, or is it, if he's not going to be played and Montgomery is going to be the manager going into next season, then is it potentially time for him to move on? Kind of obviously well over 500 appearances for Hibs. He's been just a fixture at the club for so many years, and I think he's maybe, we've possibly talked about this before, but he probably will feel that if there's an opportunity to go and play first team football, that he's still more than capable of doing that on a regular basis, because he kind of strolled through that game on Saturday, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He came on, and again, you're talking a guy that's been on the bench for a long time, not come on much, comes on, gets the captain's armband on, scores the goal, and then goes on to just really solid, and shows he's still got, because I think when Kimpioka came on, he's got a lot of pace as well and is decent in behind, and I think Hanlon dealt with that really, really well. He was confident on the ball when it was at his feet. So yeah, I think, obviously I think most Hibs fans, I think, would probably want to see him stay for give him another year. Of course, you probably then wouldn't want to see him playing every week, because you probably would want us to go out and recruit and have him there in that kind of role. And you're right, he's probably more than capable to still go out and play 20, 30 plus games in this league at that level. So I suppose that we don't know the conversations that have gone on behind the scenes, but it would be nice that, like when he was talking about in a couple of weeks' time, I do think it'd be nice to know, I think for the fans, because I do think for both him and Stevenson, fans would want to come out and, watch them, come and see them for the last few games, just because of all the service they've given the club over the years and the big moments and stuff like that as well. So hopefully we'll hear something soon, and whether that's they stay or they go, and then at least the fans can kind of, know what they're doing and know what they're expecting going into the next new season.
Yeah, I suppose, because if it is to be a send-off for either one or both, then they probably deserve to have that dragged out for as long as possible before they do move on. Obviously, Lewis Stevenson was a kind of later sub on Saturday as well, and that pushes him towards that kind of 600 appearance mark, which is just kind of ridiculous when you think about it. So with 4 games left, I'm kind of, it looks as though he's going to reach and then possibly pass that milestone, regardless of what happens come this summer. So yeah, but for now we are we're just going to leave it there. I don't think we've much more to touch on from Saturday's game. But obviously we'll be back later in the week to look ahead to a short trip up to Dingwall this coming Saturday. I think that was the one when the post-split fixtures came out. A lot of people let out a bit of a groan at that one. It's not. It's not the greatest of journeys, but I'm sure there'll be another decent crowd heading up to that on Saturday. But anyway, we're going to park it there for now. If you keep an eye on our website, tomorrow morning, we're going to publish an exclusive interview with Nathan Mariah Welsh. That'll be up tomorrow morning, pretty sharp tomorrow morning. Get a chance to sit down with Nathan before the game against St Johnstone and just kind of talk about his kind of football upbringing, his international call-up, his international appearances for Guyana, what it was like at Bournemouth, how he's enjoying Hibs. Some really good stuff from Nathan. He didn't have the easiest kind of early career. He was released from 3 different clubs until Bournemouth came and signed him. So there's a lot of good kind of interesting stuff in there to come tomorrow as to how he got to where he is today. So do keep an eye out for that. Today is also actually the last chance for you to take advantage of our £1 for 6 months subscription offer that runs out this evening. So that's the last day for that. So if you are at all potentially interested in the interview with Nathan tomorrow, or indeed any of our content, then please do consider taking that up before it runs out. We really do appreciate it, because it's your subscriptions that help us keep producing what we think is the most in-depth Hibs content around. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps us to continue to grow that. We passed the 500 subscribers mark last week, so thank you very much to everybody who has subscribed so far, and if you haven't, as I said, we do appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button for us. It helps us keep on doing what we're doing. And thanks to Craig. Thanks for joining us again, mate. I'm delighted that we managed to get you on in the aftermath of a win, so long may that continue. But yeah, that's all from us today, folks. We'll be back later on this week to preview the weekend and talk about, I'm sure, much more in due course. So thank you for joining us. Have a nice evening, and we'll catch you again next time. Cheers.
Thank you.